Coming up on this edition of Main Street, drawn from nature. First, in Laurel County, you won't believe your eyes when you see Jim Sam's flower carvings. Washington County, our next stop, is home to duck carver Bob Gibson and quilter Brenda Plaster. Together they create beautiful but distinctively different works that will last for generations. And finally, join the Dossey family for a tasty tour of their award-winning winery in Paducah. Straight ahead on Main Street.
Funding for Main Street was provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by viewers like you who support quality programs such as Main Street that appear only on public television.
Hello and welcome to Main Street. I'm Barbara Deeb. Travel with us across Kentucky as we explore how 5 individuals create 4 unique products in 3 different locations for 2 of our cameras to produce 1 show. Stay with us. Artist Jim Sams takes his inspiration from nature. Butterflies, birds, and flowers grace his works, and it's his attention to the smallest detail that make his carvings a unique work of art. For this self-taught artist, humility is key, but it's the beauty of his works that tells the story.
I've always had a great love for wildlife and loved to draw and paint ever since I was a child and had great aspirations of being an artist someday. I mean, that was all I really wanted to do. But I've always just loved anything to do with the outdoors. I'm not a hunter, but I've always loved to go on hikes in the woods and just see what's there. You know, they don't last very long, the wildflowers in particular. And just a great passion I've always had, and I've just developed my art into wood carving, you know, just practice, and I've taught myself how to carve flowers. I've always had a niche or a knack, I guess, for the detail. I've always loved fine detail, and it's just a great challenge that I really feed on it. I like it. In the spring, I love to see the wildflowers and their bloom. I'm fascinated by anything I see. They are all so special, have their own structures and color. I'm just taking all of them, I guess. It takes a lot of forethought. Just how am I going to accomplish this piece? And sometimes everything works, sometimes I have to start over. Have to be very careful. I saw my pieces with the bandsaw, so obviously I have to be very careful with that. And, I use different types of wood for different flowers, different structures of those flowers. I use a lot of Tupelo gum or basswood, or maybe hickory for the stems. But after I saw the piece out with my saw, I would use a lot of rotary type tools, flexible shaft tool with sanding drums, and diamond burrs, and I do a lot of grinding, a lot of sanding, and then actually the hardest part to it all is the painting, because I like to have that realistic look to them, and it's a very slow process. I can maybe sometimes complete a piece, but it doesn't have that, you know, the real live look to it. It may look stiff or something, so I try to have that live touch, a very delicate look to it, maybe with defects, you know, a few blemishes on it. That's the way they are in life, and but I love it. It's a great challenge. I had someone tell me, gave me a great challenge. The lady said, "Mr. Sams, if you think you're so good, I want to see you carve a mountain laurel." And I was taken back by it. I thought, I don't know if I can do that or not. I wish I could. And the next spring when the flower was in bloom, I brought one into the shop and I made an attempt at it, and it turned out great, and that's been one of my most popular pieces, the mountain laurel. It's a beautiful flower, and it's unique. There's lots of flowers that I haven't done yet, and birds. I love to do birds also. I love to do the hummingbird. It's a great challenge, but I like to combine the two together, and there's a lot of combinations I haven't done yet. It's a challenge to make maybe what you think that the people would want to collect. It's an honor that someone would want to buy my work, to have it in their homes. And quite often you'll see that people have maybe handed it down to their children over the years, and I've been in touch with them, and it's nice to see that, you know, it's still in demand. And while I want to do that demand, I want to make what I would like to make myself. So you have to balance it out. I go to the Southern Highlands Craft Show in Asheville, North Carolina. I've been going there for 32 years, and I get a pretty good positive reaction quite often. It's so unique. A lot of people think I just have real flowers in a wooden base. I have just made a base with a flower and stick the flower in there. It's kind of funny. Some people want to smell them, and everyone wants to touch them, make sure that they are really wood. It's kind of fun. You know, I'm a blessed person, no doubt, to get to do what I, had hoped to in life. I'm very thankful and honored that people would like to buy my work.
Nature is full of symbiotic relationships. Duck carver Bob Gibson and quilter Brenda Plaster are a fine example of how love and art combine to create an amazing whole, a true testament to the love of their work and their love for each other.
When we were first married, Brenda owned a restaurant, and I came to work for her at the restaurant, and we've been pretty much together ever since. We've always liked being close to each other. We're one of those couples that can be around each other 24/7 and not be bothered by it.
It's just amazing how well it works out with both of us, just being so attuned to what we're doing. He does carving. He carves ducks mainly, birds, fish, and he kind of happened upon it. He was just kind of playing with it, and then he realized that he was really talented at it and really good at it and really loved it. And so he does his carving. The workshop, I have 3/4 of it, but he has a little corner of it, and he carves all day. We spend all day out here. He carves and I quilt, and it's just so great to be doing something that we love and to have the person you love right next to you.
I carved some decoys to hunt over originally. That was my first project in carving. And it got me kind of interested in it, and I went from there and grew. And then I got involved in making the floating decorative ducks. And that's when I fell in love with carving. I love doing that. And I carve duck calls in the shape of a duck's head. And I also make little wine bottle stoppers with ducks' heads on them. I start with a pattern, and I lay the pattern on the block of wood, trace it out. Then I go to a bandsaw, and I cut 2 profiles. Then I've got kind of a blocky piece of wood that I start rounding out and get the shape from that. Then I smooth it down. Then I lay on my feathers. I draw my feather patterns on the duck. And I take a tool and rough out each feather. And then I go in and round off each feather. Then I texture it from there. I use with a wood burner. and each little barbule on the feather is wood burned in on them. Then I seal them up and paint them. Carving is something that I find is the most stress-relieving thing I've ever done, because I get so involved in it that everything just disappears. I've had multitudes of people come up to me and say, I couldn't do that, I wouldn't have the patience. But I get myself lost in it, so to me it's not really something that I have to concentrate on being patient with. I love youngsters to come and look at my product and maybe spark something in them so that someday they might be a carver, because it's something that I love to do, and I like hopefully to get other people interested in it. If it weren't for Brenda, I wouldn't be able to carve like I do now. She supported me the whole time. She bought books for me, and she'd say, surprise, and hand me a new book and things like that. She's been so supportive. In her own right, Brenda is an artist. She doesn't consider herself an artist, but quilting is an art. And when I told her that, and I said, you're an artist, she said, no, I'm not. You know, I said, yes, you are. She is that good of a quilter, and I'm so proud of her. She quilts for magazines, she quilts for individual people, she does other ladies' tops, and hardest working person I've ever seen. She'll beat me hands down. She runs rings around me when it comes to working.
Well, I'm a traditional quilter. There are a lot of contemporary quilters out there who do more abstract kind of things. I do traditional designs. I'll use like batiks or really modern, bright, contemporary fabrics or colors, but the basic design is based on traditional blocks, usually. I also do a lot of memory quilts, a lot of theme quilts, but I'm definitely a traditional quilter. I like traditional colors and that kind of thing. I machine quilt. I don't hand quilt, and I have a quilt machine. It's specifically for quilting quilts, and load it on the machine, the backing, the batting, and the fabrics, 3 different steps, and then quilt it. And then after you quilt it, you bind it, and a lot of people, I put labels on them usually and that kind of thing, finish up work. And it takes a little bit of time, even with the machine, to quilt it. It's hard to find a really good hand quilter. It's a dying art. There seems to be a story behind just about every quilt I do for someone. It could be a gift for someone who that's their passion, like cars or motorcycles, baseball. It's just wonderful to find out what is someone else's passion and to be able to translate that into something that I love to do so much. And people are so appreciative of what you end up with, and that fuels me too. So it's just astounding the way quilts touch people. They either know someone who quilted and they have memories of their mother or grandmother. It's just an amazing art form, I think. It feeds me. It feeds my soul. It's a creative outlet. It's something I can just get lost in, the challenge of it. But art, I think working artists, they're not in it to make a lot of money, or if you do go in it, you learn fast that you're not going to do it. If you can make a living doing what you love, it's not work. It's your life. It's just the best of both worlds. I mean, it's not like I have to go out to a job that I just tolerate to be able to come and do this. I go to work to do what I love. It just, I can't imagine not doing it. And now I feel like that everyone has something that will make them passionate about it. A lot of people don't even try to find what that is. And the people who find it are the luckiest people. And I think we found that sweet spot. We found a way to make a living doing what we love. And you can't ask for more.
When most people think about alcohol produced in Kentucky, probably the first thing that comes to mind is bourbon. But guess what? More and more the Commonwealth is becoming known for its wine production. Alan and June Dossey have been growing grapes and making wine in Paducah for the last several years. The Purple Toad Winery has produced some award-winning varieties. Let's take a tour of the vineyard and get a taste of their labors.
We started the vines about 8 years ago. June bought me a little kit from actually one of the retail stores here. It's a little 4-bottle kit, and you practice. You know, everything's done for you. All you got to do is just follow the instructions, and it comes out with the end product. So that's how I really got started. I enjoyed it. You know, I like the atmosphere. I like the challenge of making wine. So I did a lot of research. Went on the internet, most of it. We're actually dead parallel with Napa, so the weather and stuff is very similar. We bought the French grapes, and they're all Chardonnay, Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Riesling, Pinot Noir, Merlot is what we grow. They're a lot more difficult to grow. We started with 400 vines, and now we're up over 1,000, got about 2 acres. We pick about 10,000 pounds off of this, so we get quite a bit.
I just think that a lot of people assume that it's not a lot of work, but I mean, because we have people come in, they're like, now once you plant them, is that all you have to do? And I'm like, no, it's a lot of work, but we enjoy it. So.
We had our frog originally, it's a Costa Rican tree frog, actually not a toad, but its eyes are blood red. And I've got 22 ladies at work, and they said, oh, that kind of looks like he's got bloody eyes. So if you look at the label, his eyes are purple now. So we made some little changes. We started out TOE, apostrophe D originally, and they said, well, it kind of sounds like feet. I said, I don't want to sound like feet, so we went to TOAD, which we kind of knew in the background, but that's kind of how the name evolved. Well, essentially you plant it, you get your first full crop on year 4, so it takes a long time out. You want to cut all your fruit off the first 3 years, and that way the plant will get stronger and be able to handle the crop and produce well. In about February of every year, February to March, you'll prune the vines, and then about April 1st, around that, they'll start budding out. And then by about June 1st, they'll grow about 4.5 feet from that little start. Usually by middle of May, they'll have their flowers, and they're self-pollinating. And then right now, they're little green peas, is what they look like. About the end of the last week of August, you'll start harvest. Each variety has about a week or 2 difference. So the first one we have is Pinot Noir, and it'll be about the last week of August. And we'll be picking or harvesting all the way up into October. Now, the whites have to be pressed and in a tank and airlocked within a few hours. Then you'll wait 24 hours. You'll put the yeast in, and it'll actually start fermenting within a few hours after that. And the whites usually you ferment them at about 55 degrees, and they'll ferment for about 3 weeks. The reds will be completely different. The reds you'll harvest, they'll come in, you'll crush and destem them, they'll go into a big open barrel, but you'll let them sit 24 hours, you'll put the yeast in, and then after that, they'll ferment in about 10 days, and they'll be finished. Then they'll go to a tank, and it's called secondary fermentation. That's when the fermentation slows down, it just bubbles real slow. And you can usually bottle those, you know, within 6 to 9 months, something in that range. Sweet wines usually what we normally do is you'll take a white or a red, and you'll ferment it to dryness, and then you'll go back and sweeten it to the amount that you like. We do everything here. We're at the manual stage right now. So you'll see us back there. We have a 4-spout filler. Looks like a little milk machine. You put 4 bottles on it, and you'll put it in, and it'll fill up to the level, and then we'll take it off, and we've got a hand corker. So you cork every bottle one at a time, and then we had a hand labeler and you just put a bottle on it, you spin it, put one label on it, and then you spin it again and it puts the back label. I started entering contests about 2 or 3 years ago. A bunch of friends suggested I do it, so I finally did as an amateur. And I won several awards that way. And so we just been working on this. And then last year, I started entering several events as a commercial professional. And we've won 43 awards across the U.S. in the last year. And they range anywhere from Ohio out to California, Texas, Florida, and all the way around. So we've done pretty well with that. I really like someone tasting it and enjoying it. I really do. It's nice to go back, do your work, and have a final product that people enjoy. So I really like that part. My wife's very good at the social part. She does a great job in the tasting room, and I do most of my work in the back with the tanks and stuff. So.
I mean, I think meeting the people is the most fun because during the week, it's usually mostly tourists from out of town. We've had them from Alaska, California, and we've had a couple from British Columbia last week. And so it's fun just meeting different people and hearing their stories. And so, yeah, I think it's fun. We even have people, it cracks us up, they'll come in and like a husband will say, oh, I only drink bourbon or I only drink whiskey, and they usually end up leaving with a couple bottles. They'll be like, oh, I didn't think I'd like this. So yeah, it's kind of fun to watch people like that just assume that they're not going to like it, and they'll try it, and then they end up leaving with a couple bottles.
Well, I see myself getting quite a bit larger. We thought we'd start out slow, but we've started out a lot faster. It's been received well out in the public. This is, we hope, or my hope is temporary retail. We hope to build a main winery. We just bought 13 acres just joining us, and we want to put the main winery there. So it'll be a bigger facility. This will be all processing. And so I would think we'll be in the top 5 or 6 wineries in Kentucky, I'd say, within 4 or 5 years.
Well, our journey has come to an end, but don't let it stop there. We welcome any questions, comments, or story ideas. Write to us at Main Street, care of WKYU PBS, 1906 College Heights Boulevard, number 11034, Bowling Green, Kentucky, 42101. Or call us at 270-745-2400 or 1-800-599-2424. And don't forget the World Wide Web. Check out our webpage at the address on your screen. Here you can find our email address as well. We hope you've enjoyed this look at the interesting people, places, and things that make our Commonwealth so unique. Until next time, I'm Barbara Deeb. And remember, we're just around the corner on Main Street.